legs and leaned across the minuscule table. Married women give off vibes, and single men pick them up like sonar. I tried to send him a signal, but it didn't work. He knew immediately. You, on the other hand, are giving off single vibes, and he's zeroing in on that like a bee does pollen. I'm sure you're wrong. Maybe, Amy agreed in a thin whisper, but I doubt it. She took one last sip of her drink and stood hurriedly. I'm leaving now, and we'll test my theory and see what happens. My guess is that the minute I'm out of here, he's going to make a beeline for you. She paused, smiled at her own wit, then added, the pun was an accident. Clever, but unintentional. Amy, I thought you wanted to talk. Erin, however, wasn't quick enough to convince her friend to stay. Before she'd finished, Amy had reached for her purse. We'll talk some other time. With a natural flair, she draped the strap of her imitation snakeskin handbag over her shoulder and winked suggestively. Good luck. Erin was at a loss as to what to do. She was 27, but for the majority of her adult life, she'd avoided romantic relationships. Not by design, it had just worked out that way. She met men frequently, but she dated only occasionally. Not once had she met a man in a bar. Cocktail lounges weren't her scene. In her entire life, she'd probably been inside one only a couple of times. Her social life had been sadly neglected from the time she was in junior high and fell in love for the first time. Howie Riverside had asked her to the Valentine's Day dance, and her tender young heart had been all aflutter. Then it had happened. The way it always had. Her father, a career Navy man, had been transferred, and they'd moved 3 days before the dance. Somehow Erin had never quite regained her stride with the opposite sex. Of course, 3 moves in the next 4 years, unusual even for the Navy, hadn't been exactly conducive to a thriving relationship. They'd been shuffled from Alaska to Guam to Pensacola and back again. College could have, and probably should have, been the opportunity to make up for lost time, but by then Erin had felt like a social pygmy when it came to dealing with men. She hadn't known how to meet them, how to flirt with them, or how to make small talk. Nor had she acquired a number of the other necessary graces. Hello. She hadn't even had time to collect her thoughts, let alone her purse. Mr. Imported Beer was standing next to her table, smiling down on her like some mythological Greek god. He certainly resembled one. He was tall, naturally, weren't they all? Easily 6'4", she guessed, and muscular. His dark hair was neatly trimmed, his brown eyes warm and friendly. He was so handsome, he might well have posed for one of those hunk calendars that were currently the rage with all the women in the office. Hi, she managed, hoping she sounded a whole lot less flustered than she was feeling. Erin knew herself well, and she couldn't imagine what it was about her that had attracted this gorgeous man. Few would have described Erin as a beautiful sophisticate. Her features were distinctively Irish, comely and appealing, but she wasn't anywhere close to being strikingly beautiful. Naturally long, curly, chestnut-red hair, straight white teeth, and a smidgen of freckles across the bridge of her Gaelic nose were her most distinctive features. She was reasonably attractive, but no more so than any of the other women who populated the cocktail lounge. Do you mind if I join you? Sure. She reached for her glass of Chablis and held onto it with one hand. And you are? Brandon Davis. He claimed the chair recently vacated by Amy. Most folks call me Brand. Erin MacNamera, she supplied, and noticed several envious stares coming her way from the women in the crowd. Even if nothing came from this exchange, Erin couldn't help being flattered by his attention. Most folks call me Erin. He smiled. Is it true? Was I really giving off vibes? She asked, surprising herself. Obviously, it was the wine talking. Generally, she wasn't even close to being this direct with a man she didn't know. Brand didn't answer her right away, which wasn't any wonder. She'd probably caught him off guard, which was only fair, since he was throwing her completely off balance. My friend was saying men in bars pick up vibes like a radar detector, she explained, and I was wondering what messages I was signaling.